let's get more from Claudio Chisani, Portfolio Manager and Investment Advisor at Blueshore Financial. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Claudio. Can you give us your impression of these numbers from Nvidia?
Andrew, thank you so much for having me on the show again. I just wanted to point out that Nvidia did not disappoint in terms of revenue and earnings. I think they came in line. Okay. They have not beaten by $2 or $3 billion in terms of gross revenue. And if we had something to that effect, or if their gross margin were projected to go much wider, I think the stock would have appreciated even more. However, it gives the market comfort that Blackwell is on pace for delivering in the second quarter and beyond. They have Rubin as a new semiconductor chip to be introduced in March at their convention. So I do think that they're getting right now their bearings back after the DeepSeek event, and the market will have to assess if earnings can continue. So we are in a way on a neutral to a positive path.
Right. And apparently Rubin named after the astrophysicist Vera Rubin, and that's the next thing that's coming from Nvidia. Claudio, sorry, would you be, just clarify, would you be a buyer of Nvidia stock right now?
Well, I think Nvidia, you have to be a buyer of the leader, and you see the difference in between Nvidia and AMD as an example. The leader takes it all, and the second, the runner-up doesn't have the same runway. So Nvidia long-term has, the fundamentals of the business have not changed. Data centers will require a lot of microconductors. We have supply-demand that seems to be stabilizing with Blackwell. So I would be a long-term buyer of Nvidia. But at the same time, I would have to accept the fluctuation of it in the short term.
The winner takes it all. That's the old ABBA song, wasn't it? I remember that one was a hit back in my youth. Yeah, because nobody seems to be near them right now. I know AMD is making progress, and huge companies like Amazon are working on their own devices, but it seems like there's no real challenger to Nvidia right now.
That's exactly right. They keep innovating. The rest of the market is still trying to catch up to Blackwell, and now, to Hopper, and now we're looking at Blackwell and Rubin in the future. So Nvidia has positioned themselves with at least 3, 4, maybe 5 years ahead of the curve, and I don't think it's going to be easy for the other companies to catch up to them. And if the insatiable appetite for data centers and GPUs is around, why would you not go to the true and tested microchip instead of taking a gamble on something new? So I do believe they have the runway, and they seem to be number one, and will probably continue to do that for quite a while.
It's interesting. Hopper, named after Grace Hopper. She was a pioneer of computer programming and also a U.S. Navy Rear Admiral. Some pretty interesting women being commemorated there. Claudio, it is interesting, though. You detect resentment in the tech industry. Well, I don't know if that's the right word, but Nvidia has been flexing its muscles. Apparently, a company like Dell or Supermicro, if they sell a server equipment using Nvidia chips, Nvidia has been eating into their margins by offering other stuff as well that those vendors would typically offer. So I'm sure the computer sector would love to see a rival emerge.
Well, yes, of course, that's the rule of diversification. If I were one of the hyperscalers, whether it's Meta, whether it's Google, I would be looking at diversifying my supply chain. Nvidia has subject to potential tariffs and geopolitical risk and so on and so forth. So this is not a risk-free situation. However, it seems that Nvidia is trying to do very much what Apple did for the regular computer. They're building an ecosystem and investing in companies that would increase the hardware performance in the data centers, autonomous drivers, driving technology. You've seen the latest investment in WeDrive and so on and so forth. So I think they will continue this ecosystem and they want to diversify their revenue. And I don't blame them for that. That's a really smart decision from a corporate perspective.
What about the emergence of cheaper, we're hearing Chinese artificial intelligence that can do some functions, maybe not inference and fancy stuff like that. But if the Chinese can do it more cheaply, or if their technology can, is that a threat to spending on Nvidia's products?
Well, I think we're talking about two separate products here. So to put things to perspective and give a little bit of an example, the moment the independent mortgage companies appeared in Canada, it didn't quite cannibalize the mortgages that the big five Canadian banks are offering. So I think we're looking at different sector with different needs. There's always going to be innovation. And in the large language model, there will be disruption. However, if you're looking at robotics, if you're looking at spatial intelligence, if you're looking at autonomous cars, all of those would require the highest end GPUs. So to take a chance on a GPU that doesn't yield as well as Nvidia would be a capital expense that may not pay off. So on that basis, I think they can coexist quite beautifully and maybe enhance each other.
Claudio, thank you very much indeed for joining us.
Thank you so much.
Claudio Chisani, Portfolio Manager and Investment Advisor at Blueshore Financial.